You ready? Welcome to the Grateful Farmer channel. We're just walking through the gardens this afternoon and picking a little bit of stuff, and I just thought I'd do a demonstration on picking vegetables when they're at their peak of perfection. Here we've got some corn behind us. It's called Honey Select. It's a yellow corn, and it is absolutely delicious. It's a long, slow-growing corn, and it's not near ready yet. As you know, we can barely see any corn on those plants. But these beans, growing beans next to corn, is beneficial because beans fix nitrogen, as do all legumes, so it doesn't hurt the corn at all. This is a fabulous crop of beans. You know, as I open this plant up, just incredibly beautiful. And these beans are, you know, truly perfectly ripe. So they've barely got a bump to them yet. They're nice and smooth and straight. You know, if you look inside the actual bean, the seed has not started to form to any degree at all, which makes for some really nice tender eating. Bean salad on a hot day like today, really good. We'll move on to some other things. So we're into a patch of corn here that is ready to harvest. And for starters, you're looking for the silk to be dry and not really quite crispy, but pretty darn dry. And then you feel the cob. And you're not just feeling for the fatness, but you're actually feeling kernel size through the husk. And the first couple of times you do it, it's kind of challenging. But once you've looked at the silk, you've felt the cob, and then you take a little look. That corn is what I would call quite ripe, very mature. The kernels, you know, are grown up big enough that they're kind of jammed together. I don't know whether you can see that really well or not, but you want the cob just to be nice and full, but not so the kernels look squeezed together. Unless, of course, that is how you like your corn. Everybody likes it. Some like it a little underripe. Some like it, you know, nice and mature. I'm kind of an in-between that kind of fella. But that particular cob is quite mature. So I'm going to find another one that's maybe not quite so far. And once you've, like I can tell this one here by the feel, and the more cobs you touch, the bigger your patch is, of course, the better you get at it. But this one will look like the one I just picked. This one's pretty mature as well. This one's maybe not so much. That is what I would call pretty well perfect. You know, the only way we truly know is put a drip of the corn juice on a refractometer, and it tells us the sugar content. That will tell you, A, how healthy your soil is, or your mineral content in the soil, how balanced it is. And it'll also tell you the ripeness of the corn, because the sugars will go up as it hits maturity. But that's a pretty nice cob of corn. So again, you're just going through, looking at the color of the silk, feeling every cob, and getting a pretty good feel for what your hand is seeing inside the husk. So we're in a corn patch here that's not ready to pick yet. You know, the silks are still really moist, you know, starting to dry a wee bit, but this corn will probably be about a week away in general to start picking the cobs that are ready. But as you can see, these plants are growing more than one cob. I think some people would call these suckers, but if you like pickled corn, and I mean really good pickled corn, you can make pickled corn out of field corn, and that's what most people make it out of because it's abundant like crazy. But through this patch, it'd be easy to make, you know, a couple of quart jars of pickled baby sweet corn. And it has got a flavor that is really crazy good. You can actually eat the silk as well. It's an indicator of the flavor. But to go through your sweet corn patch, find little cobs like that, and put your favorite pickling recipe on that, or even just, into a stir fry with whatever lovely dish you're making. Amazing. Amazing. I'm going to give the other plate to the camera guy. Amazing. So the other thing that I'd like to touch on is how you handle products. You don't throw corn into the basket. You don't, some things are a little tougher, that they have a thick rind, but any bruising on any fruit or vegetable starts a decomposition process that will affect the taste and the storability and just about everything about it. So it's a fabulous habit to get into, to cradle your food. Set it gently in the basket. Thank the plant for growing it when you pick it. Somehow, some way, according to Monica Gagliano, who wrote Thus Spoke the Plant, the plants really appreciate you appreciating them. So that's good advice, to say thank you every time you pick a cob of corn. Set it in the basket really nicely and move on to your next adventure. So we're in a patch of okra, and okra picked from the garden, to me, is a completely different thing than anything you'd buy frozen or from the grocery store. I've only ever really eaten it this way. Any other time I tried to eat it, I really couldn't do it. But when it's picked fresh and small, so I just use a little kind of sharp pruning shear. You can use a knife, but you tend to damage leaves around it. That one's perhaps a little small. I'm going to show you another example. So this is probably an ideal okra size. That's, again, a little small. If they get too big, it's this long, they'll start to get woody and fibrous and just not so nice. But that in a little bit of stew or soup, half a dozen of these or 4, fabulous thickener, really makes it taste great. Corn and okra go really nicely together. The only thing I haven't really touched on about picking vegetables, or a couple things that I might throw in. One is, many plants, first thing in the morning, the sugars are at their highest, and throughout the day, because the plant's doing whatever plants do in the day, the sugars sometimes go down. I know peas are like that, probably everything. Maybe not so much tree fruit, but definitely your garden vegetables are best picked in the morning, probably before mid-morning. It's better to have fresh food, like picked the day of, than to pick it the morning of and wait till the next day to eat it, because the sugars just do this. And sugars and nutrition have an equal sign in between them. So I always recommend the fresher you can pick it, the better off you'll be. In 4 days, cows wouldn't eat beans. They can smell the nutritional and sugar in every blade of grass in the field. That's why they stick their head under the fence looking for something that's really good, because they can smell it. But as stuff, even in the fridge, as it goes downhill over days, 4 days or so, 5 days at the most, cows won't eat those beans, and on the first day they'll push the fence down to get them. I've seen cows hike for more than a kilometer, break out of their field, and go directly into a subdivision above Blue Mountain and eat the entire crop of vegetables in that one, 200 by 300 foot garden. More than a kilometer away. Cows have a good nose for it. Follow the cows, eat what they eat, except for grass, of course. And that may be all I have to say about most things right about now. Thanks so much for watching. See you again soon. So I think that's good for that. We'll go down and pick some corn.